Okay, welcome. I'm Carol Becker. I'm Dean of the School of the Arts, and I'm really thrilled to be here. Welcome to all of you, to our graduating students, parents, friends, most dedicated faculty and staff, to our graduation speaker, David Picker, and to Eric Mendelson, who's in the audience, who just honored at graduation with the Presidential Teaching Award. And of course, to our honoree, Emily Fisher-Landau. And to her family and friends who are here today, I welcome all of you. I will begin by congratulating the class of 2012. This class is comprised of graduating students from 24 countries. We have marveled at your brilliance, at your talent, at your warmth, at your compassion, at your camaraderie, at your achievements, your devotion, and your kindness to each other. We have immersed ourselves in your work, and we have bonded with you as our students and as our colleagues. And thus, we are very sad to see you go. But we're also very happy because we know that you are already extremely well educated and prepared to enter your various professions. We are certain that you are going to succeed, and we know that you're going to make us very proud. It has been a joy to witness all your incredible work this year. You gave those of us on the faculty and staff the gift of your talents at Columbia and across the city. We saw Panoply 2012, the salon sponsored by the Interdisciplinary Arts Council, that so many of you shared readings, performances, screenings, and exhibitions. We thank the leadership of the IAC for its tenacity and wisdom in making that event happen. We thank you for your brilliantly directed and acted theater, thesis plays, and actors' theaters, thesis productions, and all the showcases. I like that theater has a cheer. You have your own cheer. And a month of unforgettably written new plays now downtown. You're going to make it very hard for film, which is next. At Lincoln Center, 2 weeks ago, we witnessed your amazing achievements and those of past students, filling Alice Tully Hall for the opening of the 25th Annual Film Festival to enormous success. It continued at the Walter Reed Theater, at Symphony Space, at McGraw-Hill, and then here at Miller for a night of student selects with an astounding range of new short films and screenplays presented throughout the whole week. We have marveled at the beautifully produced Writer's Thesis Anthology with selections from every brilliant second-year MFA student, and the beautiful word-for-word edition, the translation project from literary translation that is going across the world. And of course, the monumental visual arts thesis exhibition at the Fisher-Landau Center of Art in Long Island City, where more than 1,000 people packed the opening to see the latest work of our spectacular artists. So these events were thrilling, and not only for us, but to the thousands and thousands of people who attended and appreciated all that you've accomplished so far. As graduates, you'll be joining an incredibly illustrious group of alumni who have gone on to extraordinary achievements around the world. This year, the overall success of our students and graduates has been so overwhelming, it's much too extravagant for me to enumerate here, so I've chosen just a few examples of alumni achievements to mention. In film, 3 student alumni films swept the Eastern semifinals and have advanced to the finals for the Student Academy Awards, taking bronze, silver, and gold. An annual competition for college and university filmmakers, Gora Kim for The Recorder Exam, which won last year's annual Alumni Award for Best Student Film, Christoph Kuschnig for Hatch, and Mark Rasso for Under. The winners were selected by filmmakers from the Academy, and now they go to LA for a final jurying. In theater, Hal Lufty, from 1984 graduate, produced the Broadway revival of Evita that was nominated for a Tony Award. The Gershwins' Porgy and Bess scored 10 Tony nominations, including Best Director for our alumna Diane Paulus, and 5 Drama Desk nominations. Theater alumni Beau Willimon was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay for the George Clooney film, Ides of March, based on his play that he wrote here for Farragut North. And Clarence Koo, 2010, won the 12th. He won the 2012 Yale Drama Series Award. And Tony Speciale was nominated for a Drama Desk Award for the play Unnatural Acts. In visual arts, Gilad Rotman from 2009 was selected to represent Israel at the 2013 Venice Biennale, and we know that our faculty, Sarah Z, is going to represent the United States at the Venice Biennale. It's going to be a big year for Columbia Visual Arts at the Venice Biennale. Dana Schutz's retrospective, If the Face Had Wheels, began at the Newberger Museum in Purchase. It's traveling to the Miami Art Museum, the Denver Art Museum. She has a big show up right now in Chelsea. Writing, the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry was awarded to Tracy K. Smith, class of 1997, for her beautiful anthology, Life on Mars. Karen Russell, our alum, writer of Swamplandia, was one of the 3 finalists, none of whom were selected for the Pulitzer in fiction. So I think we need to talk to that committee. But nonetheless, it's a fantastic tribute. Kelly McMaters and Beth Raymore both had books made into films shown at Sundance, The Atomic State of America, and Lay the Favorite. And we had 2 Guggenheims this year from alumni. One to film alum Shireen Dabis, class of 2004, and another to visual arts alumna Shitra Ganesh. So those are the achievements of our recent alums. Our alumni, as you see, are everywhere. They're producing wonderful work around the world. And in a short time, you'll become part of this great story of success that really is the School of the Arts. And remember that we really want to hear about this from you. We want you to write us and tell us and call us and email us so we can tell everybody what you're doing, so I can brag about you at events like this. And so that we want to continue to be helpful to you in any way that we can. You will always, always, always be part of the School of the Arts. And you'll always be part of Columbia University in the city of New York, even when you leave today. I promise you that. I only wish that I had had the opportunity to spend even more time with you, but I've had time to get to know some of you, and I'm very grateful for that. To hear you talk about your work, your time at the school. The student body in total represents 52 countries, so the 24 countries are half of that, of all of you graduating to that today. And we cherish the breadth and the depth of this mix very much. We love very much that the school is global. It brings us such amazing richness. It's one of the greatest strengths of this school. Its sophistication and the reputation of Columbia University globally is reflected in all of you. We have learned so much from your presence about the world, about this new global world that we're trying to adjust to and live in, and we now await the world's recognition of all your talents. Before we begin our program today, I'd like to acknowledge those people without whom many of you could never have completed this most essential part of your development as artists, and that is your parents and your families and your friends. So let's have them stand. Parents, stand up. Stand up. And now I need to take a moment to thank the faculty of the School of the Arts. I would venture to say that there is no more devoted faculty anywhere, And these are faculty with enormous careers of their own, with great successes in the world, winning awards and acclaim every day, and still they are remarkably present and invested in all of your success. And I know that you know that as students. This is the 3rd year in a row when one of our faculty have won the Presidential Teaching Award. This year, it was film faculty Eric Mendelson, and this is the award. This is the award everyone teaching at Columbia wants, and the reason is it's the award that comes from the students. It comes from you. In the citation that was read by the president about Eric, I just excerpted one little paragraph, because we could go on, I think you know. And this is to Eric. Your extravagant dedication to students and generosity of time and talent are legendary. You have mentored numerous filmmakers as they launched their careers, and their success in winning awards and industry recognition speaks for itself. I would like Eric Mendelsohn to stand up. 2012 Presidential Awardee. And now let's ask the faculty to stand, all of those who've supported you for your time here. One more minute, and then we really get going. I want to thank all the staff. This was an extraordinary endeavor. I think it looks great. The stage looks great. And I want to thank the Office of Student Affairs. I want to thank Associate Dean of Students, Layla Mayer, and Chiku, and Kenny, and Dave, and Allison, our wonderful directors of academic administration from each program, Bill, and Emma, and Julie, and Sarah, and those in communications and events, Rich and Christina, who put all the images together for the show, and Daisy, and all those at Miller, especially Brenna, who worked so closely with us, as well as those at Neiman Center, the Dean's Office, Mia, Tony, Nona, Dean Barbara Batchelor. I'd also like to thank Chris Washburn and Columbia's own undergraduate jazz ensemble that are playing for you today. When I first came to the school, I thought, why aren't we using our own directors to choreograph graduation? So now we do. And I'd like to thank very much the director of the ceremony, Tyne Raffaelli, and our stage manager, Ashlyn Curry, they definitely got us into shape, as well as Susie Moses and Allison Ginsberg. I'd like to thank all our volunteers, and I'd like to thank Jana Wright, who's not here because her daughter is graduated today from Columbia College, and she's a very proud parent, and she's with her family. So opening our program is our guest speaker, producer David B. Picker. He is a third-generation motion picture executive and producer. His list of films is so staggering, it almost does not seem possible. It is an honor to have him with us today, and to introduce him, we've asked our chair of the film program, the incomparable Ira Deutschman.
This is a very lucky task indeed. Over the last dozen years or so within the film program here at Columbia, we've embraced an idea that is so obvious that it's remarkable it took us this long to do it. What we teach in the film program is the ultimate collaborative art, and yet the role of the producer, the central figure in navigating between the art of storytelling and the necessary evil of business, was not stressed enough. As a producer myself, I'm proud that creative producing is now central to our program. Also, as a producer, it makes me very proud that our keynote speaker today is one of us. David Picker was born into the film business. His father, Eugene Picker, was an executive at Loew's Theaters. His grandfather, David V. Picker, was one of the founders of Loew's, which at the time was the parent company of MGM, for those of you who don't know that. David was brought into the family business at a young age and settled in at United Artists in the publicity department. United Artists was not your typical film company. It had been founded by Charlie Chaplin, D.W. Griffith, Douglas Fairbanks, and Mary Pickford in order for them to have more control over their work, both creatively and financially. Even as the company evolved and changed ownership, it remained apart in that it never really had a studio, it didn't produce its own films, and it remained stubbornly based in New York. The company financed and distributed the work of independent producers who were given creative freedom well beyond any afforded by any of the other Hollywood majors. David worked his way up within the United Artists organization, finally becoming president in 1969. His time at UA was a watershed time for American cinema, and David was in the middle of all of it. He's the man who started the James Bond franchise when he greenlit Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger. How's that? He greenlit the early Woody Allen movies, and Woody kept making his films at UA for many years afterwards, even as he moved away from comedy and started to take on serious filmmaking. He greenlit Richard Lester's A Hard Day's Night and Help, starring that little band called the Beatles. And how's this for a short list of a few other films that he brought to UA? The Oscar-winning Tom Jones, Midnight Cowboy, Last Tango in Paris. Among the many European filmmakers he brought to United Artists were Federico Fellini, Ingmar Bergman, Francois Truffaut, Louis Malle, Sergio Leone. David went on to become an independent producer, bringing us such films as Lenny, starring Dustin Hoffman, directed by Bob Fosse, which, by the way, was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, Smile, directed by Michael Ritchie, Juggernaut, directed by Richard Lester, and then he was brought in by Paramount Pictures as president of their motion picture group. And just like when he was at UA, he presided over an incredibly fruitful period with such films as Saturday Night Fever, Grease, Terry Malick's masterpiece Days of Heaven, Warren Beatty's Heaven Can Wait, and Robert Redford's directorial debut, Ordinary People. He had a long collaboration with Carl Reiner and Steve Martin, producing The Jerk, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, The Man with Two Brains. He later ran a company called Lorimar Pictures, and then he did a stint as president and CEO of Columbia Pictures. So as you can well imagine, the list of films goes on and on and on. His most recent corporate position was at Hallmark Entertainment, where he got to work in television. He executive produced a number of miniseries and made-for-television films. Throughout his long and storied career, the one constant was a belief that one did not have to sacrifice quality in order to be successful. He represents what we at Columbia consider to be the true definition of a producer, the central figure who navigates between the art of storytelling and the necessary evil of business. And he always does so with such grace and gentlemanly behavior that he's a rarity in a business that's full of bullies. There's a quote that I read somewhere which I've been attributing to David in my classes for years, and I guess I'll find out today whether it's really his or not. He said, "When I look back at my career, I realized that if I said yes to everything I said no to, and I said no to everything I said yes to, I would have broken even." Growing up, I always knew the name David Picker from seeing it on the screen and reading Variety and the other trades. I'm now incredibly happy that I can call him a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, David Picker.
That man sounds familiar. He was talking about, but it is hard to believe. The New York Times this morning said at all these functions that Lewis Carroll and Robert Frost keep getting quoted, and it's become a banality. Well, I'm not going to agree with them. I was lucky enough to work with some extraordinary creative people in my life and to study under some, and I was lucky enough to study under a lecture course given by Robert Frost. And he used to read his poems. And I thought for the graduation, is this better? Yeah. I'm so sorry. Should I start again? My favorite quote from Mr. Frost is one that I think should give every single person in this room something to believe in. And it's from a poem called A Considerable Speck. And it's about a poet who has a piece of paper, and he's about to write, and as he looks across the paper, he sees this tiny little mite crossing. And of course, the logical thing to do is to take the pen and just dot the mite with a drop of ink. But he doesn't. He watches the mite cross the page. And the last two lines of the poems are, "No one can know how glad I am to find on any sheet the least display of mind." In my career, I have worked with many storytellers. I mean, that's what we all do, whether we sing, dance, paint, write, film, direct, act. We are storytellers. And I have been fortunate enough to work with some of the most extraordinary of my time. And so I thought, rather than lecturing you, I would just tell you a couple of stories. Some are very short, some are a little bit longer, but I will stay within my time frame. Ingmar Bergman made movies for us at UA. We were the only American company he permitted to finance his films, and I met with him and we agreed to do 4 films together. And all we had to do was approve the outline, which usually ran sometimes as long as 3 sentences. And he made 3 films for us in a row: Persona, Passion of Honor, and Hour of the Wolf. And then, we haven't got to the good part yet. And then the most expensive was a war film called in Swedish Skammen and called Shame. And I had, on the receipt of the previous 3 films, always sent Mr. Bergman a telex, telling him how pleased we were and how honored we were to be distributing those films. Skammen arrived. I screened it in the United Artists Projection Room, and I really didn't like it. It was expensive. It was actually over budget. It didn't seem to me to perhaps have the potential of a Bergman film even at a lower cost, and this was a much higher cost. And so I didn't send the usual congratulatory telegram. And about 5 days go by, and Paul Kohner, who was Mr. Bergman's agent, is on the phone and says, and I can't imitate his accent, but it was quite delicious. He says, "David, Mr. Bergman has not heard from you." And I said, "I know." And I sent Mr. Bergman a telex, and I said, "Dear Mr. Bergman, I apologize for not getting in touch with you, but I didn't quite know what to do. I saw the film, and I must say I didn't respond to it, but my response is not important. What's important is the audience, and I promise you we will do everything we can to reach the widest audience possible for your film. Yours sincerely, David." And I got an answer from Mr. Bergman. He said, "Dear David, the important thing is you told me the truth. As far as the audience is concerned, if they do not like my film, it will bother me. For about 5 minutes, yours, Ingmar Bergman." Peter Brook. Peter Brook is, at least in my personal opinion, for what it's worth, the finest stage director of my lifetime. And I was privileged enough to work with him when we agreed to film his production of Marat Sade. But he invited me to Paris because he was presenting a 9-hour epic, the Mahabharata, the great Indian tale. And he was curious as to what possibly we could do in terms of film. So I went to Paris, and we were going to have lunch. There was a matinee that day, and the matinee started at noon and ended at 10 o'clock that night. And he wanted to stop by on the way to lunch to talk to the cast. It was actually the 1-year anniversary of the production. So we stop by, we go backstage, the cast is there, and Peter says to me, "I'll just be a few minutes, David, wait here if you will." And he proceeds to give casts notes from the performance he had watched 2 days before. The show had been running a year. It was 9 hours long, and Peter was giving his notes. Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis starred in a film I produced called The Crucible, based on Arthur Miller's play. He played John Proctor. We wanted to shoot the film near Salem and Ipswich, and we found an island that permitted us, it was owned by a trust, to build the town of Salem on the island. Daniel heard about it and said he had committed to the contract, his contract committed him to the run of the show, but he called and asked if I would mind if he came 6 weeks early, because he wanted to work with the carpenters who were building the John Proctor house. And he did. Daniel came and worked with the carpenters and built the home in which he lived. Dustin Hoffman. I did a film with Dustin. It was the first film I actually produced, called Lenny. I had agreed to do the film. There was a producer involved who owned the show, but had made a deal with Bob Fosse to make the film, and in the Fosse deal, Fosse said, I will do this film, but you can have a credit, but you can't be involved. And he was smart, this producer, and he agreed. And Fosse, I had made the deal, and I had greenlit the movie. And when Bob heard that I was leaving United Artists to start a producing career, he asked me if I would join him and work on the film together. And I did. It was a long, I could talk right now for 5 hours, and I believe you'd be interested in almost everything I could tell you about the making of that film, but I'm only going to tell you one thing about Dustin Hoffman. There's a scene near the end of Lenny where this iconic comic is really at the end of the road. He's a total drug addict. Nobody's going to see him anymore. And he has a scene where he has to come on stage to a nightclub where there's 3 people or 5 people attending. And he's so out of it that he wears shoes, socks, underwear, a t-shirt, and a raincoat. And he's stoned when he gets to the theater, and he's got to go out and perform in front of 10 people who couldn't care less that he's even on the stage. It was a long shoot, and it was a 6-day-a-week shoot, and we had one Saturday that we were not going to work. And Dustin came to me and asked if he could arrange the schedule so that the Saturday that we were not shooting could be the Saturday before the Monday that he would like to shoot this particular scene. And of course, we could accommodate that. So we finished shooting Friday, and the company was off Saturday, and the company was off on Sunday, and Monday was the scene that Dustin had to perform. It was a 7:30 call. We all got there. Dustin pulled up, and he had on each arm an attendant who kind of looked like they were holding him up. That was a little scary. And he came in, and he asked if he could talk to Bobby and I. And he did, and he said, listen, I think I can do a couple of takes. He said, I didn't quite know how to handle this because I didn't want to take drugs. But I know I have to appear stoned. So I decided to hire these 2 gentlemen on Friday, and I haven't gone to sleep since they arrived. They have kept me awake, and I'm prepared now to do this scene. And when you see that movie, again, you watch that scene, and you see an actor performing that is the ultimate in commitment, in care, and in art. That's what these people do. I don't have a lot of advice for you, I really don't. You want it, you go for it. How? I don't know. Go find somebody that you believe in or believes in you and do it with them. Get any job on any level, on any project that interests you, even if you have to do it for nothing, because I'll tell you something about people in the arts, and I speak more specifically about movies in this case, but I know this to be true. They respond to people caring more than anything else. If they see somebody who wants responsibility, and by that I mean, get me a cup of coffee, clean the trailer, drive me here, they respond to people who want to be involved, who want to learn more than anything. And I can give you, and I'm not going to bother you now, but I could give you 10 examples from Jeffrey Katzenberg to Academy Award producing Lawrence Mark, who were PAs on my movies, and who have found a way because of their absolute, total determination to succeed. I want to congratulate a group of people, you parents. You parents have put up with a lot. But I absolutely believe based on what I've seen not only today, but other times that I've been in college campuses. But I have to say, I go to Columbia more than any other place. I absolutely believe that what you have given your kids is something so valuable, and you should be so proud of, that you are entitled to an enormous, enormous level of support and love. I'm going to close, and I'm going to close with what I wish for you. And it's something that I read, but was also said to me before I even read it by somebody that I was privileged to know named Truman Capote. Truman Capote said, when asked, what did he hope to attain in life? He said, I want to get to the top of the mountain because although the air is thin, the view is exhilarating. What I want for you is that air for you to breathe and that view for you to see. Congratulations.
David, that was totally wonderful. Just wonderful. Thank you. We have so many wonderful things today, and now we have a very special event. Today we are recognizing the great art collector and philanthropist, Emily Fisher Landau. And it is my honor to introduce her to you and then to present to her her citation. So this is my introduction. Some of you know her very well, and some of you don't know her at all. Over the last 5 years, one of the gifts of my position as Dean of Faculty has been getting to know Emily Fisher Landau, renowned art collector, philanthropist, woman of the world, and great, great friend of the School of the Arts. A book her family created about her life is called We Had Such a Good Time, and So She Has Had. But it has not always been an easy time. Life has presented her with the most difficult challenges, yet she has triumphed, a result of an enormous, resilient spirit. Emily Fisher Landau loves the energy and the daring of young artists, accepts their originality, eccentricities, passions, and the process of their work. Each year for the past 5 years, she has hosted the MFA Visual Art Thesis Exhibition in her fabulous Fisher Landau Center for the Arts in Long Island City. This glorious 25,000 square foot space, opened to the public in 1991, houses her enormous contemporary art collection. Designed by the acclaimed architect of exhibition spaces, Max Gordon, the center is a dream. Each of the last 5 graduating classes in visual arts has had access to this museum-quality venue for its final exhibition. As a result, the work has looked absolutely the best, resulting in wonderful opportunities for many of our students. Emily's 1,100-piece art collection spans 1960 to the present and includes such artists as Jasper Johns, Donald Judd, Agnes Martin, Robert Rauschenberg, Cy Twombly, Matthew Barney, Ed Ruscha, Rothko, and of course, Andy Warhol. Several of our faculty's work, including that of John Kessler, Kiki Smith, and Kara Walker, also has become part of the collection, and she recently gifted 367 pieces to the Whitney Museum of Art. At the time, Whitney director Adam Weinberg said that all the artists Emily had collected were of interest to the Whitney. This is a tribute, would be a tribute to any collector. The gift is a remarkable one, worth millions and millions of dollars, but also invaluable in its representation of the history of American contemporary art. Each year, the center continues to acquire work from young artists. Our students often benefit from Emily's famously astute eye as she walks through the show with her daughter, Candia Fisher, herself a great art lover and friend of our students. And they select several pieces that they think should be part of this monumental collection. We are thrilled to have had and continue to have access to such a great collection and to the visionary space that she chose to purchase in what was then a remote setting for art, Queens, but which is now an art destination, home to such other prestigious institutions as PS1, the Museum of the Moving Image, the Noguchi Museum, Socrates Sculpture Park, and so forth. What does it take to build such an extraordinary collection and to be such a deliberate patron of the arts? First, I think it takes passion. You have to love art, and you have to understand it, not intellectually necessarily, but in an intuitive and heartfelt way. Emily would have loved to study art making, but this was not meant to be. Still, she has a great feel for it. Art is essential to her life, and it provides a constant source of pleasure and learning. To be a collector, you have to have love. You have to love artists, or at least the way they work and think. Collaborating with her dear friend and curator of the center, Bill Katz, she often bought work before others recognized its value, simply because it spoke to her in a profound way. Her passion and understanding of the work, as well as her daring, comes from a very deep place in her and a desire to always maintain a sense of possibility for the future. What the world could be, should be, if it were truly responsive to human emotion and also to play. Emily is a visual person, and like many artists, she's dyslexic. But when she was in school, teachers didn't understand this problem, and having suffered these difficulties and these indignities, she also became compassionate to others that were challenged in similar ways. As a result, she and her family have invested in a professorship at Harvard University where they study dyslexia, and they teach the latest findings. She's encouraged elementary schools to diagnose students with this difficulty early on to help them succeed. Her concern and generosity has led to increased awareness of this challenge. The Fisher family, many of whom are here today, has been a great benefactor to the School of the Arts in many ways, including the gift of the Andrew Fisher Fellowship Fund, named after Emily's grandson, fellowships that have benefited so many students over the years and helped them to complete their education at Columbia. The Fisher family's generosity is legendary. They founded the Fisher Houses program to provide low-cost residencies for the families of patients receiving medical care at major military and VA medical centers. Oh, you're looking at the images. What happened? We have to get them back because we have a great last one. So here we go. They founded the Fisher Houses program to provide low-cost residencies for the families of patients receiving medical care at major military and VA medical centers around the country, to give families a place to stay so that they might be close to their loved ones during these times. And the Fisher family has also been involved in the founding of the intrepid Sea Air Space Museum. Emily Fisher Landau has a great eye for art. She has a great eye for people. She has a tremendous love and joyfulness for life. She has been a great friend to the world of artists and art making and to those whose gifts might not fit easily into established systems, as well as a great friend to those who have served their country and whose families are not always well provided for. In recognition of all of these forms of generosity and brilliance, and with deep respect for all her achievements in the arts, we are delighted to present to Emily Fisher Landau today an honorary professorship of the arts at Columbia University School of the Arts, and I would like now to read the citation. So Emily, can you join me at the podium? And so it says, Columbia University School of the Arts in the city of New York honors Emily Fisher Landau, visionary champion of art and artists, as honorary professor of the arts, in grateful recognition of which the Dean of Faculty of the School of the Arts has affixed her signature to this certificate in New York on the 16th day of May in the year 2012. This is for Emily.
only thing I might say that would be somewhat unusual is the fact that I was born learning disabled, dyslexic. But nature gave me this wonderful gift of the eye. I could walk into a gallery with art all around the room by one artist, and I could tell you which is the best. And that's a gift. So I thank you very much for this wonderful honor. This is a day I will ever, ever, never, never forget. Thank you, and from the bottom of my heart, I can't tell you how much this has meant to me. Thank you.
Okay, now we have, having given Emily her recognition, now we recognize all of the graduates. The chairs of each program, with the assistance of the directors of academic administration, will present the degrees. And we begin with Visual Arts Chair Gregory Amanoff. Then we move to Theater Arnold Aronson. Then to Writing and Standing in Today, because Binny is in Jordan. We have the chair of the Poetry Concentration, the marvelous poet Lucy Brock-Broido. And we're finished with Ira Deutschman in film. So we'll begin with Gregory Amanoff.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. And let me add our words to thanking Emily for, and Candia and the Fisher family for all the years of great generosity. Those of you who have seen our exhibitions at the Fisher Landau Center, and I encourage you to go today, rush over to Long Island City, wait till I'm finished, and then feel free to go over. You can skip these other people. I kid. Oh, come on. Grow up. But we want to thank Emily. The exhibition is extraordinary, as it has been for every year, for the 5th year. It's extraordinarily beautiful, and it's a testament. It's such an honor for us to have that wonderful museum. Thank you so much, Emily and Candia. Thank you. Thank you. And then, of course, I want to thank our 27 graduating artists. They have sacrificed much. They're an extraordinary group. They have formed a community that I think, that I know will extend well beyond their years here, with both the class below them, the class above them, and all the alumni that are so active in the art world. So on behalf of the faculty, I'll just say we're not worthy to you, and thank you. I'm just getting started. Come on. Come on, there's no trick. It's not a trick. It's real. This is reality. Emily, this is an artist, and you know why? She's orange, and that's your favorite color. Now, why is this artist orange? Because orange is the color of the sun. It's the best, more energy than any other color, am I right? It's the color of light. So this is an artist that is working in their studio all alone. No one's begging them to make art. They're making it because they believe in something, they want to make something happen that has never happened before. That's our artist. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they succeed. This artist has just succeeded. So they call their friend. They call a friend. Another artist comes over. Could you take a look at what I'm doing? The artist says, this is great work. You know, maybe they're a little older and they have some kind of judgment. They want to help this artist. So they look at the work in the studio. They say, this is fantastic. Great work. Let me help you. I know somebody. Who do they know? Let's take a look. I have to remember here who they know. They know an art lover. This is an art lover, Emily. I should be orange, I'm sorry. It's pink. This is a collector, an art lover. Maybe they buy things, maybe they just collect things, but they are very interested in what the artist has. And then you have this collector, then calls a dealer or somebody who has a space to exhibit the work. we have somebody who has a gallery or a space. It doesn't have to be a commercial venture. Now, then they think a little bit together, and they think, well, let's call somebody, I know someone who writes about art. They're called a critic, or as my father-in-law calls them, crickets. So, give them credit. So the cricket comes in, looks at the art, talks to the dealer, talks to the collector, and thinks, this is great work, I want to write about it. The cricket calls the curator. A curator comes in, looks at the work, is very interested in the work. Maybe they represent a nonprofit space, maybe they represent a museum, but they're a curator. Working pretty well so far. You never know. All right, now the critic writes books and writes magazine articles. You know, all kinds of things get published. So this is an art publisher who has to publish some of the things the critic writes. So we'll think of publishing, we'll think of art books. Here they are. Will this work? You have to remember here. Now, where are we going to put the art? Where's the curator work? The curator works in a museum, of course. A museum, a nonprofit space, somewhere to put the art up so that everybody can see it. So here's the museum. Who do we have in the museum? Well, we have people that fix up the art, because artists aren't very careful. Those are called restorers. We've got education people. We have a whole flock of people that are working to take care of that art. There's the museum. Now we get the fun part. We have the art historians. Now here at Columbia, we have one of the great art history departments anywhere in the world. The art historians are putting the art in context. They're thinking of the historical precedents. They're also writing books, so forth. All right. And then now we have a very special, I forgot about libraries. We have to get that in here somewhere. The Avery Library, where I better redo this. Now we have another special class of people. These are the people who do art theory. Are you with me here? This is the nation state of France. Entire country, that's all they do, is they write art theory. Want me to start? I'm forgetting about us. Here's Columbia, Columbia Blue. Good, right? Columbia Blue. This is all the faculty. This is the dean. This is this building. This is the university. These are all of us, many of whom are artists. Oh boy. Don't do that clicky thing. Now what do we see? Let's just think about what we see. The artist is at the bottom, but everyone is on the artist's shoulders. None of these things exist without that person in that studio. So, artists drive the bus, you're in charge, everyone else follows. Hold everybody up and make your work. Congratulations. Visual arts graduates make their way to the stage. I'd like also to introduce our Director of Academic Administration, who works tirelessly to make the place run, along with her staff, the fabulous Emma Balaj. Let's hear it back here for Emma. And you're going to stand here. I'm going to stand there. All right. This is unsightly. Let's get started.
Go. Karakrit Arunanchai. Julia Bry Benjamin. Sebastian Purcell Black. Robin Sarah Cameron. Nathan Ng Catlin. Leah Marie Satera. Caitlin C. Cherry. Lisa Michelle Cobb. Jeremy Michael Couillard. Ernst Ezekiel Fischer. Ben Ho. Christina Ann Lee. Alexandra Lerman. Molly Elizabeth Lowe. Irini Aspasia Miga. Susan Nadine Morlock. Claudio Nolasco. Beatrice Ann Parsons. Jordan Spence Rathis. Corey Thomas Riddell. Alexander Whitaker Smith. Maria Teresa Stabio. Matthew Carter Watson. James Earl John Yakiniki.
It's nice. For one afternoon, I get to feel like Stephen Colbert. Following Gregory is like being on the worst bill on a vaudeville act. So, congratulations to the stage managers and producers, dramaturgs, directors, and actors, but I think I skipped playwrights, of the class of 2012. And welcome to the world's second oldest profession. So for 3 years, you have endured basements with malfunctioning heat and ventilation, drafty towers, stifling classrooms, the occasional rat. On a daily basis, you have run marathon journeys from 132nd Street to Dodge Hall to Schubert Alley to Chelsea and beyond. And yet somehow, despite overwork, lack of sleep, and even a lack of a theater, you created fascinating, powerful, often revelatory art. I normally don't like the phrase, the magic of the theater. It is trite, it's sentimental. But how else to describe, that's not a laugh line. How else to describe what you have accomplished? We would all agree that there is nothing magical about Shapiro or Nash or Horace Mann or Riverside, and yet, week after week, we enter one of those spaces and a transformation occurs. For a few moments, the outside world melts away, and with the simplest means, you have transported us to ancient Greece, Renaissance England, France, Spain, the worlds of Chekhov, Brecht, Beckett, or some new cosmos that you have created for us. How does that happen? I have been making and creating and teaching theater for over 40 years. I started when I was 2. And I still don't fully understand. But somehow, with the help of your teachers, you have learned or absorbed these mysteries. And now you join an ongoing river of artists with sources in Aeschylus, Bharatamuni, Xiaomi, Gao Ming, and generations of griots with names that have long been lost to history. You are about to commence on a lifelong journey in which you will be the new creators of American theater or the theater in the 10 countries which you represent. So I have a request. Actually, it's more like a desperate plea. I want you to make interesting theater. Your initial response is probably, duh, what else would I be doing? Well, I don't know about you, but I find a lot of theater out there created by well-intentioned, intelligent, talented people to be anything but interesting. Peter Brook, who our speaker spoke of, concludes his book, The Shifting Point, with a parable in which God tells people that the secret to theater is interest. But Brook wonders why the uninteresting is so appealing. And he says, and this is a quote, "What makes so many people in the theater applaud so often and so vigorously what is actually of no interest to them whatsoever? If the word interesting seems banal, it is because it has lost its meaning. It is a word that we use when we're at a loss for words. It is a euphemism for bad. Gee, I read your play and it was really interesting." But if we go, none of your plays, of course, but if we go back to the roots of the word, its definition is to make a difference, to be of importance, to affect with a feeling of concern, to stimulate, to sympathetic feeling, to excite the curiosity or attention of. Several cultures have mythological origin stories for the theater that often hinge on the notion of interest. For instance, in Japan, the sun goddess, angry about something, hid in a cave, plunging the world into darkness. In order to draw her back out again, the other gods created a performance that evoked laughter. When the goddess poked her head out of the cave to see what all the laughter was about, the dancer caught her attention. She was interested, and daylight returned to the world. John Cage once defined theater as anything that engages the eyes and the ears, perhaps an overly broad definition, but not if we truly pay attention to the word engages. I think that part of the issue is size. Too much of our theater is small. I believe, like Aristotle, that size matters. But Aristotle's Goldilocks formula, a work of art should be neither too big nor too small, seems to have led to a theater that is, well, uninteresting. As you know, Tolstoy declared, all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Well, not in the American theater. In our theater, all the unhappy families are alike as well. We are barraged with unhappy love affairs, dysfunctional families, the unfairness of life. Theater should give us something we cannot experience in the real world. If I want to wallow in broken hearts and dysfunctionality and rotten luck, I'll go home and look at my scrapbook. I'm just kidding, I don't have a scrapbook. But you may say, isn't this the basis of most drama? Sure. The vast majority of our classics are about unhappy families, but not the ones you grew up in. You want dysfunction? Look at Oedipus, the Oresteia, Electra, Hamlet. Look at King Lear, which revolves around an irascible old man, probably in the early stages of Alzheimer's, and his ungrateful daughters and their loutish husbands. But that's not what the play is about. Much of Death of a Salesman is set in the Loman's kitchen, but no one ever accused it of being a kitchen sink drama. Did Sophocles have a difficult relationship with his father? Did Shakespeare have trouble with his children? Did Molière have problems in love? Was Chekhov allergic to cherries? We don't know, and it doesn't matter. Actually, Molière did have problems in love, but that's a different story. In the real world, as your teacher, advisor, I hope friend, I am concerned about your tribulations and your triumphs. But as a spectator at the theater, I don't care about your personal problems or your gripes or your quotidian encounters with the mundane. I want to be surprised. I want to be taken where I've never gone before. I want to see the world in a new light. I want, to use Aristotle's word, magnitude. I'm not asking for physical size. You can have, as Shakespeare said, great reckonings in little rooms. Or as the saying goes, all you need for theater is 2 boards and a passion. But I want you to think large thoughts. I know you can do it because I've seen it in your work here. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to go forward and make theater interesting again. Congratulations. I'd like to invite the graduating theater arts students to line up at the stage. And I would like to introduce Julie Rossi, our Director of Administration, Academic Administration, who will announce your names. And while you are lining up, I would like to thank Jamie Hardy for all of her work that keeps the theater program running.
Itohan Olerenosi Aguirre. Jessica Kaplow Applebaum. Rafael Alejandro Benoit. Linda Lorena Borregales. David Joseph Carter. Donovan Christie Jr. Michelle Coate. Sarah Elizabeth Eisman. Danielle Shari Feidelson. Lila Feinberg. Shannon Sarah Fillion. Kate Flanagan. Simone Adina Hanukai. Matthew Michael Hurley. Eddie Ray Jackson. J. Luke Jaski. Ellen Anger Joffred. Julia May Jonas. Mehmet Onur Karaolu. David Douglas Klasko. Daniel Levitt. Wei-Yi Lin. Adam Daniel Lubitz. Jimmy Mays. Philip Andrew Blaze Mancias. Natalia Miranda Guzman. Daniel William Materatando. Evan Richard O'Brien. Melissa Schultz O'Donnell. Jensen Austria Olaya. Kyung H. Park. Melissa Ann Pedro. Caroline Jane Prue. Brittany Nicole Reimert. Tatiana Gloria Rivera. Stephen Craig Rowe. Luis Enrique Santiago. Coco Maria Schneider. Marissa Danielle Schwartz. Simone Marie Scully. Marine Anne Francoise Cialelli. David Rosar Stearns. Amy Faith Steinman. Ashley Kelly Tata. Tiffany Rosalinda Vega. Danielle Lee Van Gaal. Ching Zhan.
These are some pretty tough acts to follow. And I know that our chair, Bini Kirschenbaum, who's now taking a little dip in the Dead Sea, for real. She's in Amman, Jordan, setting up a satellite MFA program there. Tonight she will camp with the Bedouins, and then she'll be back, and I'm taking her place. But I know last year she read to our graduates a list of jobs that you will be capable of doing after you graduate from here. I also wanted to say that Gregory has his orange dolls, and Arnold, well, there are other colors too, has the biggest woo-woo in the audience, and I think the writer should get a little more excited. Yes. Hey! And had I known there was going to be such frolicking, I would have brought my poet finger puppets. When I was in graduate school here, we used to do the death of poets by finger puppets. No one does it anymore, but we'll be glad to teach you. Also, I was going to read you a poem that was published in 1667 by the poet John Milton. It's epic. It's in blank verse. It's in 12 books. It's 10,541 lines long. And I thought we could sleep over. We can. Instead, I'm going to read a brief, sleek poem by the poet Richard Wilbur. And this is a poem written to his daughter as he listens as she is trying to become a writer herself. And I think the close of the poem represents how all your teachers feel about the what's yet to come in your lives. It's called The Writer. In her room at the prow of the house, where light breaks and the windows are tossed with linden, my daughter is writing a story. I pause in the stairwell, hearing from her shut door a commotion of typewriter keys, like a chain hauled over a gunwale. Young as she is, the stuff of her life is a great cargo, and some of it heavy. I wish her a lucky passage, but now it is she who pauses, as if to reject my easy thought and its figure. A stillness greatens in which the whole house seems to be thinking, and then she's at it again with a bunched clamor of strokes, and again is silent. I remember the dazed starling which was trapped in that very room 2 years ago, how we stole in, lifted a sash, and retreated, not to affright it, and how for a helpless hour, through the crack of the door, we watched this sleek, wild, dark, and iridescent creature batter against the brilliance, drop like a glove to the hard floor or the desktop, and wait then, humped and bloody, for the wits to try it again, and how our spirits rose when, suddenly sure, it lifted off from a chair back, beating a smooth course for the right window and clearing the sill of the world. It is always a matter, my darling, of life or death, as I had forgotten. I wish what I wished you before, but harder. Congratulations. I'd like the writers to line, and I'll introduce our much beloved program academic administrator, Bill Wadsworth.
While the writers are assembling, I just want to also thank Clarence Koo, who does things during the day besides writing plays, the writing program, and Edie Kearns-Rechsteiner for all of their hard work this past year. Marnie Lee Berger. Patricia Elizabeth Barry. Marina Blitzstein. Sharon Borthwick. Priya Chandrasegaram. Alicia Shine Chang. Catalina Chim Chow. Leah Brody Damsky. Sasha Fletcher. Chris Garrick Williams. Emily Rose Hertzlin. Joshua Scott Howes. Sasha Aaron Lang. Michael Yisha Lee. Hillary Lecter. Adva Levin. Kelsey Ann Motes Connors. Mike Murphy. Steve Nelson. Matthew Joseph Parker. Jonathan Philip Rappaport. Gordon Chenoweth Sauer III. Anna Albertson Spiegel. Brian Lewis Spitolnik. Jesse Athena Denai Thiessen. Alexis Linda Tonti. Rachel Molly Traeger. Astrid van Arben Allender. Juliana Xuan Wang. David Shin Wu. Thank you.
And last but not least, all right, I don't have any props. I'm not particularly theatrical, and Lord knows I am not poetic. In fact, if I was going to try to express myself in the way that we express ourselves in the film program here, it would be up there on the screen, but unfortunately, I'm still trying to get it financed. So instead, I'm going to just pitch it. All right, so on behalf of the film faculty, I'd like to congratulate the class of 2012 over there. Over the last however many years, we've put you through many versions of hell. There was the 3 to 5 minute version, the 8 to 12 minute version, and the all-important thesis version. There were all those pages to write, the marathon classes, the Wednesdays that lasted from 10 in the morning until 9 at night, the conflicting notes on your latest draft or your latest cut, the deadlines that came and went, and the pressure to perform while surrounded by peers who always seemed to make it look easy. And I forgot to write down, also there was the air conditioning challenged rooms and the occasional rat, as Arnold mentioned. Well, you've made it to the other side. You are a producer, a director, a screenwriter, a scholar, a critic, a curator, or some combination thereof. So as you step out of the cocoon of this academic environment and into the great unknown, what's next? It's certainly a question a lot of people up there are asking. I'm reminded of the fact that as an independent filmmaker, you almost never have a moment to celebrate. It always seems that every time you've scaled some kind of mountain, you can barely take a breath before there's another mountain to climb. The day the financing comes through so you can finally make your film, who has time to celebrate? Now you have to go right into production. Who has time to celebrate when you complete the film, when you need to focus on doing whatever's necessary to get to its intended audience? It's always like that, isn't it? One mountain after the other. But you've chosen a calling that never gets easy. Get used to it. Embrace it. You came to this school not because you thought it was a quick road to riches, but rather because something burned inside you. Walt Disney, of all people, famously said, "We don't make movies to make money. We make money to make more movies." Yes. I vividly remember the moment in my life when I began to recognize the power of this medium. I was blown away by the moving images on the big screen and the inexplicable emotion brought about by the communal experience in the dark. I was drunk with the possibilities of using that power for social or political change. I wanted to share that magic with anyone and everyone who would listen. Ingmar Bergman once said, "No art passes our conscience in the way that a film does. It goes directly to our feelings, deep down into the dark rooms of our souls." There was no other choice for me, and I'm sure that was true for many of you. So what next indeed? I have a few small pieces of advice, and I have to say that these probably would be good pieces of advice for everybody here, not just the film students. Number one, don't be precious about your next move. Look kindly on any opportunity, even if it seems like it might be a detour on the road you've set out for yourself. At every juncture, you're meeting potential collaborators, financiers, employers. You never know where your future is going to come from. Number two, look around at your classmates. They are the key to your future success. The old saw about how it's who you know in Hollywood, it's actually partially true. Just keep your eyes, sorry. You're starting out with a strong community that will be rising through the ranks together. Number three, don't be envious of others. Don't compare your rate of success to your classmates. Everyone rises at different speeds, and luck definitely can be a factor. Just keep your eye on your own work and root for each other, because that goodwill will indeed pay off. And number four, don't get discouraged. As demanding as this program is, the life awaiting you, with rare exceptions, will be just as challenging. I know that all of you have heard the doom and gloom about how all the traditional ways of earning a living through filmmaking or film scholarship are disappearing. Yeah, there's a lot of chaos out there right now, but out of chaos comes opportunity. As a society, there's never been more demand for people with the skills that you have honed. As the old methods of production, distribution, and dissemination of information inevitably evolve into something new, something that is already beginning to take shape, we're seeing the beginnings of a gold rush to get control of the storytellers, the people who have the talent to create powerful stories within these new paradigms. So while there may be a lot of rocky times ahead, don't give up your dreams. There's a lot of opportunity ahead. But with opportunity comes responsibility. The art of storytelling goes back to the dawn of man, from cave paintings, which, by the way, were the first storyboards, to IMAX, mobile phones, and the internet. The means of storytelling is constantly evolving, yet storytelling in all of its forms remains the glue that holds a society together. It's fundamental to politics, to religion, to advertising, to business, and to art. Over the last century, it's become clear that visual storytelling specifically has become one of the most powerful means of moving people, moving them to laugh, moving them to cry, moving them to act on their better instincts, and in the wrong hands, moving them to their worst. So what you do is important. You have a responsibility to use your talents in ways that will hopefully make us a better world. Congratulations to all of you for what you've already accomplished, and I think I can speak on behalf of everyone at the school when I say we can't wait to see the work ahead. Congratulations. I'd like to invite the graduating film students to come on around, and I'd like to introduce our incomparable Director of Academic Administration, Sarah Mason, who will reveal to us for the first time which ones of our graduates have middle names.
And I just want to say, leading our graduates is Hannah Saifu, who's my right hand, and I couldn't do it without her. Darren Richard Anderson. Valerie Margaret Bischoff. Jessica Caldwell. Christina S. Cho. Joseph Garth Clay. Greg Legaspi Conde. Jedediah Harlan Cowley. Bobby Kashif Cox. Joel Robert Davenport. Gabriella Dentamaro. Chanel Samantha Elaine. Nathan Patrick Floody. William Burr Gerard. David Gregory Gutnick. Randall Eric Green. Andrew James Daniel Hauser. Ausa Hjorleifsdotter. Jonathan Aaron Kaufman. Gerald June Kim. Christoph Robert Kushnig. Anna Lazarevic. Elisa Leras Frutos. Alexander Lee Lubliner. Natasha Johns Messenger. Sarah Michelle Nerboso. Olivia Claire Newman. Brittany Alexandra Parker. Brian Matthew Parker. Robert Levon Poole. Jessica Mereda Rambo. Mark Jason Razzo. Jasmine Nina Rivera. Belkis Esra Sidam. Levi Casey Schroen. Brooke Ashley Seabold. Benjamin John Seckham. It's okay. Jean Marceau Secheret. Baldwin Kari Sveinsbornson. Jasmine Bahar Tekkener. Lori Ann Thomas. It's okay. Jada Denise Thompson. Shukri Hassan Tillman. Matthew Jude Torgy. Michael Anthony Toscano. Matthew Tyler. Callie Elizabeth Watch. Maria Christina Alleman. Netta Alexander. DePaulo Vincent Barawan. Catherine Gray. Jane Valentine Sue. Stephen David Mears. Jonathan Robbins. Tarini Sridharan. Petter Valsen.
Congratulations to all of you. Now let's have a party. Everybody to Dodge. Everyone's invited to the reception. Let's have some fun.